got groups and subgroups set up with, again, like, so obviously for me as well, it's not just HR work. So I do marketing, I have to look at accounts. I've got all of my back office function that comes along with running a business that most people don't think about before they do this. And so I've got regular tasks that I'm a great fan of a repeating task, anything that can take the work off it. So I do that every evening, bring everything up to date, look at tomorrow, look at where I've got time blocked out. I time block like you do. And then so I have a time block for client work. I have a time block for working on the business. I have a spare hour each day that I leave blank for meetings. So if somebody wants to book a meeting with me via my online calendar, they can do that. And then on a Friday, I have a 2-hour block where I really delve down into what's coming up next week, have I got any diary clashes, things like that. So yeah, that's my process. I am a little bit kind of, I do need that for me, otherwise I feel a little bit out of control.
And I mean, I especially understand for you having your own business, but one of the things I think I'm going to take away from it was you mentioned I have my notebook and then I have to remember what I wrote in it. But what you do is at the end of the day, go through your notes for the day, transfer them into a place with dates. For me, I'm like, oh, I know it's in my notebook. And I end up finding it eventually, but then maybe something falls off. But you're being deliberate in making sure
Yeah.
that every single night you're doing that download. And I'm trying to also figure out through Otter or through other ways, can I make it completely digital so I don't have to do that transferring? But right now, I like the idea of still writing. It does help me keep things in my
Yeah.
memory when I write it down. And
Yeah.
so adding that last piece of transferring and being deliberate and putting time to do that, I think that's the key part. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. I'm
you're
going to do that.
closing the loop there. And I'm the same. There's something about a pad of paper and a pen that feels it works for me on certain levels that online or digital just hasn't done yet. And I've done the same. I've tried to come away from it completely and be responsible with paper. It's just not the same yet.
Yeah, I'm debating if like the people use kind of like an iPad and they write on it and then it automatically transfers it, but it still doesn't feel like paper. And maybe I have to get over that one day and I'm just dragging my feet into the future. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think iPads are a little bit different because you can get, obviously, if you've got your iPad, you could have Office on there, MS Office, and you could move things into folders. But I tried a Remarkable. Have you come across the
I've
Remarkable
heard
tab?
of it, but yeah, how is that?
I've tried two and I've sent them both back. Like the so the first one was back when they first came out, and they were just like they're like a paper, a Kindle Paperwhite.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they're that sort of texture and look. And it was just very grey. It was, and I'm quite an expressive. I'm going to write things down. I'll have different colours and things like that. And it just didn't work for me.
Huh.
And then they brought a colour version out, and I'm a sucker for anything new. And I'm like, oh, I'll have one of those. So I still couldn't get away with it because your files sit separately in a different app.
Oh,
So I'm like, how do I marry those things up? And it's something else to check. So yeah, because they're not cheap either. So they were, I think the colour version was like, it was about £500, which is about, I don't know what, $700 for
maybe
you guys.
600 these days. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
closer. Yeah.
yeah. And so I'm like, no, it's not worth it. So yeah, luckily if you try them directly from Remarkable, you get I think it's 90 days free to try it.
Okay. I might
So yeah,
try that. I have it's called there's a lot of them now, the AI wearables. I use a Plaud, Plaud note pen.
yeah,
So you can wear it like a watch, you tap it and it starts recording and then
yeah,
it's just like Otter, but kind of more Otter on demand. And that worked well when I was sitting in conference rooms and doing meetings, right? The same thing as Otter, because it was weird when Otter will show up in a meeting and take notes and people are like, who is this random thing? So I use the AI notes in Zoom, which is now people are used to it. So it's automatic where people are like, you have to acknowledge that they're going
yeah,
to be transcribed, which is great. If you're not in a Zoom or in a virtual setting like this, that's why I started using the Plot Note pen. But the other problem is, hey, I'm going to record you. Do you give me permission? And like in the natural, making sure you're not being illegal, especially in California and other places. So anyway, that's interesting. But at the end of the day, the trusty notepad and pen still works. So maybe
it
we'll stick
does.
to it.
It does. It has its
Last
place.
question around the scale building, because we're already at 45 minutes and I feel like I could talk to you for another 5 hours. Like I originally scheduled, you often emphasize being commercial in HR. What does that mean? Why is it important? What does that look like in practice?
So for me, I think when I first started working in HR was like a separate function to the business. You know, the business operated over here somewhere, and then HR was sat somewhere else and saying no, mainly, you know, to most people. And what I've really seen, and my practice in particular, has always been to really get under the skin of the business. Like, I remember my first HR advisor's role when I moved on from the company where I, you know, fell in love with HR, but there just wasn't anywhere for me to go there. It was they were at capacity and I was never going to get to that next step. So I moved away and I went briefly into manufacturing. That is my one and only stint in manufacturing. I will never ever work in manufacturing again. It is not for me. However, I would be out there in the factory on the line, watching what they did, understanding what they did, understanding the different job roles, really getting to grips with what their goals, their targets, their objectives were financially, you know, what is it we need to do, and working with the different teams and understanding the interaction in between them. That was probably me being commercial ahead of my time, because then I think the skill is to align the HR strategy plan, people plan, with the business plan and the goals and objectives, and get the two married together, because we are a support function in some respects, but we're also a strategic partner. And I think that's really, really important to remember, that, you know, we're there to advise and support on, you know, the compliance type of things, but we're also there to help the business achieve its aim. So for me, it's about learning the language that the business speaks. Don't differentiate yourself in HR as being somebody different or not part of that, or that doesn't apply to me. It absolutely does, because the success of the business is this, you know, relies upon the success of the people who are in that business, and in HR that's what we do. So we all have to be on the same page and you know, striving towards the same goal. And it's pointless having a really great people strategy if it doesn't get the business to where it needs to be or meet the objectives of the business. So yeah, it's about pulling those things together for me.
A follow-up to what you said about matching, you know, you're walking on the floor and their goals, you having to marry what is HR is doing. What does that actually look like in practice? Is that so? Walk me through a scenario where you've learned about the people that you're supporting, their goals. Then what do you go and actually, how do you translate that into something that matters on the HR end? I'm curious how you would approach it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about when I worked in the railway industry in the UK. I worked for a railway provider, a contractor, who was actually a really, really great company. And I was the first person from the office to get their safety certificate, which was like a 2-day course to allow you to go trackside on working on a live railway. I mean, they scare the life out of you on this course.